Hey guys, welcome back to Hands On channel. Today we're going to deviate a little bit from the normal videos that I put up, and I've actually prepared a statement here. I normally don't do that, but sometimes it helps to really get your thoughts together when you don't have a lot of outside stuff coming in, like cant being filmed and stuff like that. If you guys have never done this, it's not exactly easy to sit in front of the camera, hit record, and get everything that you're trying to get across before you run out of time or before you run the audience off from boredom. So that's not the goal here. I want to share some thoughts with you guys that I've kind of been holding back on for some time. So I prepared a little statement here and we're going to get right into it, but I'm going to give you a warning right up front. If you're easily offended by people that, you know, are passionate about the pursuit of liberty and those who love liberty and freedom and stuff like that, then you're probably going to want to tune away right now, tune out, you know, go somewhere else. Go find an SJW channel to check out. You'll probably find everything you're looking for there. You're not going to find it here. And I've held back on some of my views because, you know, obviously I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I'm trying to be all inclusive here on the channel, but, you know, some people are just too easily offended these days. And to them, I say you need to thicken up your skin a little bit and, you know, learn how to defend yourself. I think part of the reason that these SJWs, they scream and shout us down when we're trying to make points and stuff is because they really know in their heart of hearts that they can't argue with our point. Whether they believe that we're right or wrong is irrelevant. They do know that they are incapable of battling us in the arena of debate. So that being said, I'm tired of holding tired of keeping my lips zipped and stuff. I'm going to let you guys know kind of some of the things that I think is going on, not only pertaining to this current pandemic / panic that's going around right now, but just some other stuff that I've seen in my 44 years here on this earth. So I'm going to get started here with my statement. Sorry, you'll see me looking down. I don't have a teleprompter. I'm not, you know, Fancy Boy or Barack Obama or anybody like that can read off a teleprompter. I've got to do it by a piece of paper. So here we go. For some time now, I have struggled with what kind of content I should create for the Hands On channel. I have enough uploads now that I can clearly see which videos are my high and my low performers. I have limited the type of content that I upload to mainly repairs and DIY videos. In the past, I've kept most of my opinions about politics and current events to a minimum, mainly because I wanted the channel to be all-inclusive, but also for anonymity and some fear of being banned or put on a list. I'm not a constitutional scholar. I'm a mechanic and a free thinker. I was not an A student and didn't care much for public education during my youth. Things started to get more serious for me after 9/11, though. My wife and I had a young child, and we worried about her future. What kind of country would we leave her? I started to realize why some of the older generations were so worried about a loss of liberty. I noticed a shift in how I was thinking and what ideas seemed important and how I processed all of that. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. Saturday Night Live. I used to love watching Saturday Night Live back in the 90s and stuff. You know, for one thing, they had some funnier people back in the day, and it wasn't so politically driven. It always has had a political agenda, don't get me wrong. But back in the 90s, they hadn't turned it all the way up to full throttle. It was just sort of a trickle, so, you know, you could still tolerate it. And even back then, I wasn't really set on any political ways, so it really didn't bother me. But now when I watch this stuff, it's just constantly one-sided. Let's just leave it at that. So sports is another example of that. I used to like to watch college ball. I never really have cared for NFL because it's just so overly commercialized and ridiculous, and they're pushing so much of their agenda during either the halftime shows or the commercials that, you know, it's hedonism on full display. So I don't really care for that. And I'm not talking about the actual players or the sport or the game itself, although in the past, some of those people like Kaepernick and some of those other people, you know, have really made an ass of themselves. So let's see here. What was the other one? Music. Oh my gosh, music is a big one. I'm a music lover big time. And man, back in the day, I'd just listen to a song, probably like many of you do, and I'd listen to the song and I'd be like, man, that's just got a really good beat, or that's got a really good guitar riff in it, or that's got a really good drum track, or whatever, or bass lick, or whatever. The vocals are killer. But many times I didn't actually sit there and listen to what they were singing in those lyrics. And many of those songs, especially old classic rock, all the way up, and you know, and it just got progressively progressively worse as they turned up the water tap. It started out a trickle, drip, 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 and then now it's full throttle. And if you don't believe me, you know, I'm sure you do. Just go turn on the TV and look at any channel and wait for their commercials, and you'll see how horrific things have gotten compared to the Andy Griffith days anyways, you know, or even the Dukes of Hazzard days. You know, there's people that think that the Dukes of Hazzard are super offensive because they have a rebel flag on the top of their car. Not once did I see anything racist ever on the Dukes of Hazzard. It was not racist at all. It was just they were rebels. You guys just don't get it. So, all right. Kind of covered those. SNL, sports, and music. That's real great examples that if you are like me and you grew up in the 90s and stuff and you've, you know, become an adult and matured, you've seen this happen. And so, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a youngster and watching this, you don't understand probably. Give it time, maybe you will. So, first up here, I want to define something here because it's liberty. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot. But what does it really mean? Well, just so happens, for our convenience here and for sake of argument, I went and looked it up. Here's what the dictionary says. Liberty, the quality or state of being free. A, the power to do as one pleases. B, freedom from physical restraint. C, freedom from arbitrary or despotic control. D, the positive enjoyment of various social, political, or economic rights and privileges. E, the power of choice. Now, under the current circumstances and some of the states' stay-home orders, in my opinion, violates our liberty directly. And, you know, before you get all up in arms and say, oh, well, what about the you can't yell fire in a crowded theater thing? Well, I would argue that that's totally irrelevant to what I'm talking about right here. They have, in many states, they have removed your liberty, whether you realize it or not. Okay, so next up. It may sound strange to some of you, but I'm passionate about exercising my rights and preserving my liberty. After 9/11, I began to immerse myself in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and found the content meaningful and fascinating. Since then, I learned the Constitution and Bill of Rights are just as relevant today as the day they were signed into law. It concerns me deeply that many of our existing laws are unconstitutional. This so-called Patriot Act and NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, come to mind. Yes, I took the time to read significant portions of both. Both contain sections that are in direct violation of the Constitution. More specifically, they violate the right to due process in the Fifth Amendment and posse comitatus. I believe it is the duty of an informed populace to hold the politicians and law enforcement accountable for any unconstitutional actions or laws. Our liberty is disappearing at a steady rate. It's being stolen from us day by day through incrementalism, much like the boiling frog analogy. And if you don't know that, basically the boiling frog analogy is that you know, a frog will notice if you throw him in a pot of boiling water. But if you throw a frog in a pot of normal warm water, let's say, and you put him on the stove and slowly turn that water heat up, the frog won't notice it. He'll never jump out. He'll stay in there and boil to death because he doesn't notice through incrementalism. We get desensitized. Horrible situations are tolerable in small incremental doses. Today, Marxist, communist, and socialist propaganda is being taught in schools. History is currently being rewritten by the enemies of freedom and liberty. Children are being indoctrinated rather than educated. They are no longer encouraged to think for themselves. Instead, they are ostracized from the group for having different views or even questioning the mainstream narrative. Because of this, very few people understand their rights, so they are easily abused and taken away. That's one of the reasons I'm making this video. Hopefully, some of you younger people that don't know this stuff will go do your own homework. Don't take any of my word for any of this stuff. Don't take anybody's word for it. Go read yourself what the founders said. I agree with Thomas Jefferson on this issue. He said, the natural progress of things is for liberty to yield and government to gain ground. I think those are pretty powerful words, especially now. I ain't gonna stop doing repair videos and DIY videos, but I wouldn't be authentic if I didn't stand up for liberty in these desperate times. I certainly would never intentionally offend anyone, but frankly, some people are too easily offended these days. If you'd like to debate or start a friendly conversation about any of this, I'll gladly oblige. Name-calling and disrespectful commenters will not be tolerated because they are not conducive to a free flow of ideas and ideals. We all want to be heard, but also deserve to be treated with respect. Even if you disagree with someone, and I'm talking to our side too, try to kill them with kindness, as they used to say, the older generation used to say, go at it with kid gloves. Don't go in there and pulverize them, because, they'll just turn into SJWs and run and hide under a rock. You got to ease them into it, man. And even for me, I'm pretty patriotic, or I consider myself pretty patriotic, but I didn't start out this way. It took me years to develop this. That's why I've kind of written this down for you. I'm 44 years old now, and I remember a time when debates were more cordial and more fairly moderated. It was interesting because both parties were allowed to present their side of the argument, and people were able to make a somewhat informed decision. Today, many people think it's appropriate to shame or belittle anyone who doesn't agree with their own narrative. Verbal attacks, name-calling, screaming, and even some violence has erupted as a result of these self-proclaimed social justice warriors. They are the true enemy of liberty. They are unwilling, and I would argue incapable, of having a real debate. I hope you all will bear with me as I steer this channel into deeper waters. These are my thoughts, and it feels more honest to share some of them with you. I definitely don't think I have it all figured out, but I'm trying every day to absorb as much as I can. I expect some of you will not agree or like anything I've said today, and that's okay. I would never inhibit your right to express your beliefs, because I believe in the unalienable rights granted in the First Amendment. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Long live the Constitution.